Yo, what's going on guys, Arekkz here, welcome back to another Division video. It is the weekend, which of course means it is vendor reset time, and time for me to tell you guys what is new in every single vendor in the game. So if you do enjoy this, you do find it helpful, then as always, a like would be super appreciated. Comment down below if you have any questions. Also, a couple of things just before I get started. One, it'd be really cool if you guys could give me some feedback down below on the kind of format you would prefer this video to be. I used to just show you guys the items that I thought would be useful to you, but then some people did request seeing more stuff because, of course, lots of the vendors have some hidden items. So I've then switched over to showing you absolutely everything because, of course, some people look for different things to other people. So that way you can at least look at the video and work out what's on sale. But if you would prefer a slightly tighter, shorter version, again, me just showing you what's best, then I can always revert to that. So let me know down below. Also, I will be away next weekend. So there won't be one of these next weekend, but I will pick up the week after. Anyway, let's get started. First up, kicking things off in DZO2, as always, the vendor that sells you gear pieces. Do bear in mind, now that we are in patch 1.5, these will all be 256, and for those of you guys on PS4, when you get the update next week, fingers crossed there's nothing to kind of delay that again, then you'll be able to go and jump in here and grab some stuff. So if you're on PS4, I would recommend, if you're still in 1.4, not buying anything, just wait until you get the patch, and then you can, of course, sweep around and grab some stuff. So there's an Operator Mask with Rejuvenated and a Dominant Firearms roll, Operator Vest with Robust and Electronics roll, an Operator Pack with Relentless and a Firearms roll, knee pads with Prosperous and a Stamina roll, an Operator Holster with Steadfast, and Tactical Gloves with Savage. Of course, this one here is an easy win on this one. I'm actually currently in the process of looking for a decent pair of Savage Gloves myself anyway, because now that it's jumped to 256, my 229 Savage options are, of course, being phased out. Moving over to DZO3, this is of course where you guys get your weapons. There is a Tactical M1911 with Expert and Commanding, an Enhanced AUG A3P with Destructive, Hurried and Adept, not especially exciting, Classic FAL with Capable, Sustained and Determined, a Custom M870 MCS with Sustained, Determined and Fierce, a SOCOM MK20 SSR with Predatory, Commanding and Competent, and a Military MK46 with Self-Preserved, Prepared and Fierce. A few of those weapons have got a couple of nice talents, but there aren't any kind of especially standout ones there. And when you consider some of the other options we're going to have later in the video, I would not worry about those too much. Next up, DZO4, this is where you go to get your mods. There is a Firearms mod with Armor on, which is of course an instant win. Armor is still currently best in slot on practically everything, while you can get away with some slightly different things on mods. If you do want to stack as much armor as possible, which is definitely going to benefit you, then a Firearms mod with Armor is a straight win. Plus, you also have a Prototype Performance mod with 7.5% support station duration, so if you're running some sort of healer build, then this may be of use to you. Moving on from there to DZO5, you have your weapon mods. So you have a Quick Release Magazine with Reload Speed, Crit Hit Damage and Magazine Size, an SR7 Suppressor with Crit Hit Damage, Stability, Headshot Damage and Reduced Threat, a Vertical Grip Wolf Grey with Optimal Range, Reload Speed and Stability, and a 5.52 Holosight Tan with Crit Hit Chance, Accuracy and Crit Hit Damage. Then finally, for the Dark Zone, you of course have the DZO6 vendor, and of course this is great because if you are coming back into patch 1.5 and you know that you need to get 256 pieces, this vendor does sell some decent gear set pieces. So this week you have a Nomad Mask with Exotic Damage Resilience and Increased Kill XP, an Alpha Bridge Chest Piece with Exotic Damage Resilience, Health on Kill and Ammo Capacity. Health on Kill is of course a nice talent, you probably want to roll out the other one for armor. Deadeye Go Bag with Crit Hit Damage and Disrupt Resistance, a Reclaimer Bracers with Exotic Damage Resilience, Shock Resistance, Blind Death Resistance and Burn Resistance, Predator's Mark Holster with Skill Haste and Alpha Bridge Gloves with Health on Kill, Assault Rifle Damage and Crit Hit Chance. Nothing especially exciting there. Sometimes this vendor does have some really good pieces, but this time around, pretty standard stuff. So, moving over to the base of operations, and this time starting again with the vendor over in the security wing, the Dark Zone gear vendor. This guy has a SOCOM M1A with Determined, Proficient and Vicious, Gunslinger Gloves with Astute on, a Prototype Stamina mod with Crit Hit Chance, a High Velocity Magazine with Crit Hit Chance, Crit Hit Damage and Rate of Fire, and of course, the usual cash. Then the Advanced Weaponry vendor sells the usual named weapons, so Pakan still being very strong. You can grab this if you need like an easy win to begin, start gearing up and whatnot. Casti Centurion. You also have the Tactical M1911, Expert and Meticulous, a Black Market TA21 with Swift, Commanding and Capable, a Lightweight M4 with Focused, Commanding and Fierce, Custom M870 MCS with Predatory, Vicious and Fierce. This one's actually quite nice. I would consider rolling out Predatory in this respect and getting something else in its place, but that is actually not too bad. Do of course still bear in mind SAS G12 is still one of the strongest shotgun types there is. The M870 MCS is still, good, but if you're looking for the best one, then that still falls to the SASG. Then you have a surplus SVD with capable, skilled, and disciplined. Skilled is, however, in the unlock slot, so you will need to spec for that one. So I typically try to go for skilled in the final slot. So while this one isn't too bad, it's not something I'm necessarily going to rave about. And the Black Market M60E6 with competent, meticulous, and skilled. So again, following on from what I just said, this would be a much better example, because skilled is in the free slot, you don't need to spec towards it. So if you were instead to spec more towards firearms talents, then you would be fine, because you could unlock this anyway. You could roll out competent, and if you ran this with, say, an Alpha Bridge setup, then you could have 3 talents on this one and then 3 on something else. Yes, admittedly, for Alpha Bridge, we do prefer to go and try and grab a lower gear score secondary, but given that we can no longer drop down world tiers to change things because the vendors now scale to your gear score, we are kind of at the mercy of the game. So not too bad, decent option. You also have a high velocity magazine, an Osprey 45 suppressor, a small grip, and an EXP-S3 holographic sight tan. So they are your vendors there. Moving over to the main hall to speak to these guys over here. The weapon vendor here has a Black Market SASG 12S with ferocious, responsive, and meticulous. Responsive is decent talent, ferocious is quite nice for using in PvE. Meticulous in this situation wouldn't actually be too bad. It's not a bad talent, but considering it is in the free slot, there are also other things you could actually get more benefit out of being there. Also a small grip with crit hit damage, optimal range, and reload speed. As for his compadre on the right, this person has accomplished Spec Ops knee pads with health, increased kill XP, disrupt resistance, and shock resistance, and also a prototype performance mod with 4.5% support station healing speed. So again, if you're speccing towards a healer build, you might want to consider that. They are, of course, level 34 mods now that we are in patch 1.5. The special equipment vendor has the usual name Valkyria, Liberator, Historian, but you do have a Rhino Special, which is one of the new weapon types. The special variant allows you to put an optic on your Rhino, and the Rhino itself, actually quite nice. It's a really cool looking gun. I do personally prefer the 9.3R as, say, like the 2 sidearms compared, but the Rhino does have some interesting options. This one has Expert and Accurate. I would probably roll out Accurate for something else. However, it is a fun weapon to play with, and if, say, you're running like a shield build, not a frontline build, because of course that runs with SMG, but if you are considering running, say, like a shield build, then you could actually get some value out of this. PP19 with Adept, Brutal, and Hurried on. Now, of course, Brutal is a very nice talent, that's a given. Hurried, while not necessary, is a talent you can get use of on the PP19 especially. And of course, you also have Adept, another skill that I wouldn't go out of my way to grab, but in this situation, given that you have a choice between rolling out Adept and Hurried, I would probably lean more towards Hurried because whatever goes there is automatically unlocked versus rolling out Adept, which you would then have to spec towards depending on what you chose. So you could actually make this one pretty good. PP19 is still strongest SMG in PvE, so if you are going to be running a lot of activities like that, then do consider picking this up. It's 256, of course. You have a classic AK-47 with responsive, predatory, and prepared. A Marine Super 90 with ferocious, swift, and meticulous. A Paratrooper SVD with destructive, proficient, and disciplined. And a military RPK-74M with predatory, dominant, and brutal. Again, brutal in the free slot, very nice. Predatory is actually a decent talent. You can get use out of that if you're soloing in PvE, and dominant in this situation would be the one that I would roll out. The RPK is not necessarily the strongest LMG, that typically still falls to the M60 and the MG5, but you could definitely still get some use out of this one. As for your armor pieces, as always, I'm just going to scroll through these on screen, so if you do see one you want, then of course feel free to pause the video. I'm not going to go over all of these in depth just because, as I've mentioned in the past, these do heavily depend on your build. You know, what I'm looking for might be completely different, in fact probably will be completely different to what you're looking for, so there's no point me necessarily, speaking about something specific. There are of course some talents that are just, good by default. Armor, health, increased damage against elites, things like that. But still, regardless, you're going to want to tailor this to yourself. For example, new knee pads for the frontline set has armor on it. That's very nice. You can then roll out something else to make it even better. Operator holster. Again, holster of the Nomad also carrying armor, pretty nice. Do of course bear in mind, if you guys are still looking for gear set recommendations, Nomad is definitely a very nice set, especially if you're soloing. Just for the 2-piece, I typically always carry 2 pieces of Nomad, just because if I'm soloing, you can swap out 2 pieces of your gear, throw them on, and you get that nice health regen, which is definitely very useful. Of course, there are other get sets out there as well, but that is something to consider. Prototype firearms mod with health on it, also very nice, and a prototype performance mod with sticky bomb damage. Also an extended magazine with mag size, crit hit chance, and crit hit damage. A T-Rant suppressor with crit hit chance, headshot damage, accuracy, and reduced threat. A vertical grip FDE with optimal range, accuracy, and reload speed, and improved iron sights with stability, crit hit chance, and accuracy. As for your guy over here, usual kind of situation, blueprints for a lot of the things, but do bear in mind that some of these blueprints are now going to be level 34 variants, so if you had any before and you say want to make sure that you are as min-maxed as possible, then you can work towards them. I would say for mods, they are probably the third thing on my priority list. I typically try and work towards my gear and my weapons, and then once that's done, you can then start filling in the slots. So if you do have, you know, like level 33 mods, then that's completely fine. Put them in. You're better to have those than nothing at all. And then later on, you can start working towards those. But regardless, check things out here. Some level 34 items down there. Then finally, for the base operations, dropping down to the underground, this guy doesn't actually have as much use as he did before. He now no longer sells weapons at all. He just sells caches. Weapon cache, gear cache, mods cache, and a gear set cache. Now, yes, for the most part that makes him useless. However, it is worth considering that if you come back into the Division, say in patch 1.5, and you have been saving your Phoenix credits, then buying gear set caches, if you're after some of the new items, could actually be something you might consider doing. If you're looking for some easy 256 pieces, you can jump up to World Tier 5 when your gear score 229 and grab some of these anyway, because the nature of the loot pool now, the way they kind of changed it in 1.4, you can get practically everything from everywhere. There are a few exceptions with regards to, you know, certain named items and whatnot, but if you're looking for kind of general pieces like New Alpha Bridge pieces, Firecrest pieces, Predator, Nomad, things like that, they can come from anywhere. So if you're buying gear set caches and you want like an easy way to try and get some gear early on, then you could consider buying these. So I wouldn't say they're entirely a waste of your time, but this vendor is going to get stagnant pretty quickly. And with all of those vendors out of the way, let's now begin our adventure all the way around the map, visiting all of these safe houses to begin with, and of course then we'll do Dark Zone checkpoints. So starting off in Autumn's Hope, this vendor has tactical knee pads with Prosperous on, as well as a prototype performance mod with smart cover duration, 4.5%. So again, if you're using that, then consider modding towards that. Moving over to Wolves Den, this guy has an enhanced ACRE with Adept, Meticulous and Dominant, as well as a small grip with crit hit damage, reload speed and accuracy. Moving down from there to Dante's Run. This guy here is selling a tactical vest with Reckless on, with health on kill, protection from elites and increased kill XP, as well as a prototype performance mod with turret health. I'm actually going to grab that Reckless vest because I don't have a 256 version, so I might as well grab that while I'm here. Then moving down to the Cavern. This guy is selling a Gunslinger holster with Steadfast on, as well as Skill Haste, and a prototype electronics mod with plus 3000 skill power. As for Kerman Station, this vendor is selling a PX4 Storm Type T with Expert and Cool Headed. This is a very good thing to buy. So Cool Headed, you no longer get it on assault rifles because Caduceus doesn't have it anymore. You can get it on marksman rifles. I actually picked up the marksman rifle earlier in the week, which of course had Cool Headed on it. Very nice, but on a sidearm, it is incredibly good because you don't need much on Cool Headed to get your skills to come back, and having it on something like a sidearm means you can pull it out really quickly, fire out a few shots, get your skills back, and then swap back to your primary. I am personally looking for it on the 9.3R just because I really want to see how that works with the burst fire, but regardless, a cool-headed pistol is never a bad thing to have. And you also have an angled grip with stability, optimal range, and reload speed. Moving down from there to Camp Hudson, this vendor has a tactical UMP45, one of the new weapons. This has Sustained, Swift, and the new talent Ambusher, where it increases your damage by 10% against targets in cover. Now, I need to do some more testing with this to kind of like work out really how good it is, where it kind of falls in the meta, so to speak. But it is a new gun. It's a little bit slower firing than, say, some of the other offerings like the MP5 or the PP19. And in this situation, the talent roll isn't especially great, so beyond, say, wanting to grab this just to try out a new weapon, I would say hang tight, because these do drop quite frequently. I've got quite a few of them, so you don't necessarily need to go here, but that is, of course, an option. And you have a muzzle brake with stability, crit hit damage, and crit hit chance. Moving on from there to the Meat Locker. Here you can grab one of the new weapons, the FAMAS, with Destructive, Unforgiving, and Uncomplicated. This is actually pretty good. A lot of people have been asking in my streams, in my videos, where do you get the FAMAS? And that can actually be purchased right now from this vendor. Not necessarily the best roll, but if you roll out Unforgiving for something else, Destructive is of course very nice, that's a given. The new talent is definitely cool, interesting, if you can mod it correctly and you can make use of it. So rolling out Unforgiving to make this a very nice weapon is actually something you can't go wrong with. I definitely do say that the FAMAS is better in PvP than PvE, simply because it does a lot more burst damage, so it's great for dealing with players, but less so with NPCs. But that being said, that doesn't mean to say you can't use it in PvE. It can still be great, it can still burn people down. It just means you'll probably, run through a couple of magazines based on the way that it fires. Regardless, very nice weapon, one of my favourite new ones, definitely something I have my eye on, and something I do believe is kind of creeping its way up to the top when compared to some of the other ones like the G36 and the LVOAC. So definitely grab this, A, because it's a good weapon, and B, because it's a new weapon. So for those of you guys after this one, go to this vendor. And as for the other one, small grip, crit hit damage, optimal range, and accuracy. Moving on from there to Madison Stand. Here you can grab an operator pack with Resourceful on. Do bear in mind this is great if you're going to be going towards that new frontline set, because healing applied to skill objects does apply to your shield, so if you do want to round this backpack, then it's going to be very, very nice. And you also have the prototype performance mod with pulse critical hit chance. Moving down to the last cool safe house. Here you can grab a SOCOM M18 with proficient, cool-headed, and intense. Again, nice to see cool-headed, but in this situation, given that this is not the best marksman rifle, that typically falls to the SVD for PvP, and for PvE, the SCAR-H variants, so the Police MK17, SCAR-H, a few things like that. So in this situation, if you were after cool-headed, I would go back to the previous vendor and grab that sidearm, and then you'll still be fine. So this one, you can actually give a miss, and extended magazine, magazine size, crit hit chance, and reload speed. Moving over from there to the far east of the city, the Ward. This vendor has an operator backpack, again, with Resourceful, so same thing as before, useful for the shield build. And you have a prototype performance mod with 6.5% turret health, which again, very nice. I will probably grab some more of these because, of course, I'm speccing towards my new Firecrest build, my updated 256 version, which hopefully I'll be able to share with you guys in the next kind of week or so once it is complete. Moving up from there to Southpaw, this guy has a Gunslinger vest with Robust, and also a prototype firearms mod with Skill Haste plus 3%. Moving up from there to the Grindhouse, this vendor is selling a Black Market AK-74 with Vicious, Determined, and Deadly. In this situation, that's not too bad. The Black Market AK-74, as much as I love the weapon, it's a really nice weapon to use. The best assault rifles still fall to LVOAC, G36, and now FAMAS, so I would probably lean more towards using this, say, in an Alpha Bridge setup if you were considering it, because you could then get some nice talents and then, roll something else on your primary. And you also have a large suppressor, FDE, with critical hit damage, critical hit chance, stability, and reduced threat. Almost there with the safe houses now, moving up to the Firewall. This vendor has a pair of tactical gloves with Astute on, as well as a prototype performance mod with pulse critical hit damage. And then finally moving up to the Crypt for your last safe house. This vendor is selling a tactical SASG-12K with Destructive, Competent, and Trained, as well as an ACOG scope 4x FD with accuracy, headshot damage, and critical hit damage. So they are all your safe houses. Now for the final part of the video, let's go around all of the Dark Zone checkpoints, starting in the top right and going clockwise all the way around, so starting with East 53rd Street. Here you can grab a PX4 Storm Type F with Expert and Talented, an Operator Mask with Enduring, Prototype Performance mod with Pulse Duration plus 5%, and a Heavy Magazine Spring with Reload Speed, Mag Size, and Rate of Fire. Moving down to East 46th Street, here you can grab a Tactical Super 90 SBS with Swift, Sustained, and Dominant, Spec Ops Gloves with Cunning on, Prototype Stamina mod with Exotic Damage Resilience, and a MK5 scope 15x Tan with Headshot Damage, Optimal Range, and Critical Hit Chance. Moving down from there to East 42nd Street. Here you have a Tactical ACR with Ferocious, Deadly, and Talented, Spec Ops Holster with Nimble, Prototype Stamina mod with Plus Armor, so again, instant win with that one. Stamina mod's great if you're speccing towards toughness, and having armor on them is a very, very good start. So again, if you're looking for some 34 variants, this is the place to go. T2 micro red dot sight, accuracy, crit hit chance, and stability. Then moving slightly further down to East 40th Street. Here you can grab a tactical SA58 with Competent, Prepared, and Unforgiving, Gunslinger holster with Recovered, Prototype Stamina mod with critical hit chance, and a rugged mini reflex sight with crit hit chance, accuracy, and crit hit damage. Moving down from there to East 34th Street. Here you can grab a Military SCAR-H, again another one of those interesting marksman rifle variants, Predatory, Vicious, and Adept. Operator pack with Technical on, Prototype Performance mod with Support Station Range, and a Quick Release magazine with Reload Speed, Crit Hit Chance, and Crit Hit Damage. And then finally on the east side, you have East 31st Street. Here you can grab a Burstfire MP5A4 with Dominant, Destructive, and Deadly. Interesting combination there, Destructive and Deadly. You can roll out Dominant here and then use this in an Alpha Bridge setup. Gunslinger Vest with Vigorous, Prototype Stamina mod with Skill Power, and Small Grip Red with Crit Hit Damage, Stability, and Optimal Range. After that, moving over to 5th Avenue. Here you can grab a Covert SRS with Skilled, Brutal, and Talented, Spec Ops Holster with Nimble, a Prototype Stamina mod with Exotic Damage Resilience 2.5%, and a Flash Hider with Accuracy, Critical Hit Chance, and Critical Hit Damage. Moving over to the west, we have West 31st Street. This vendor has a classic M1A with Destructive, Vicious, and Unforgiving, a Tactical Holster with Recovered on, Prototype Performance mod with Support Station Healing Speed, and a Compensator with Stability, Crit Hit Chance, and Critical Hit Damage. Moving up from there to West 34th Street, here you can grab an MP7 with Responsive, Meticulous, and Talented, Spec Ops Knee Pads with Prosperous, Prototype Stamina mod with Signature Ability Resource Gain, and a small laser pointer with Accuracy, Reload Speed, and Crit Hit Damage. Moving up from there to West 39th Street, here you can buy a SOCOM MK20 SSR with Disciplined, Destructive, and Commanding, Spec Ops Holster with Recovered, and a Flash Hider with Accuracy, Headshot Damage, and Critical Hit Damage. Moving further up to West 42nd Street. Here you have a double barrel sword-off with ferocious and destructive as well as fierce. You have a tactical holster with recovered. Prototype performance mod with smart cover, damage resilience, and quick release magazine with reload speed, mag size, and rate of fire. Then moving up to West 46th Street, the penultimate vendor. Here you can grab a police UMP45 with Adept, Swift, and Ambusher. Operator knee pads with Prosperous. Prototype firearms mod with skill haste and a small grip with crit hit damage, optimal range, and reload speed. And then finally up to West 53rd Street. This vendor has a police tier 2-1, destructive, talented, and competent. An operator mask with rehabilitated on. Prototype firearms mod with exotic damage resilience. And an ACOG scope with accuracy, crit hit damage, and optimal range. So, there you have it. Those are all of your vendors in the map. Base, Dark Zone, checkpoints, and safe houses. There are definitely some really good options this week. Definitely consider grabbing the FAMAS, the cool-headed sidearm, some of those mods as well. This is definitely one of the better weeks we've had in a while. So, do consider buying things, and especially if you guys on PS4 get your update on Tuesday, which I really, really hope you do, then do go around and try and pick some of these things up. So if you're on PS4, hang tight, don't spend your currency, just use the next couple of days, farm in, making sure you're capped on Phoenix credits, have as many credits as possible, Dark Zone funds, things like that, and you should be good. Anyway, thanks for watching, take it easy, catch you next time, peace out.